July 24th, 1943. On this fateful summer night, the second largest city in Nazi Germany was marked for utter eradication. Under the cover of total darkness, the British Royal Air Force, alongside the United States Army Air Forces, launched Operation Gomorrah. Named deliberately after the biblical city destroyed by fire and brimstone, this operation was a relentless day and night aerial assault that would push the boundaries of industrial warfare to their absolute limits. For the first time in the history of the conflict, the Allies deployed a revolutionary countermeasure codenamed Window, dropping millions of strips of aluminum foil into the air to completely blind and confuse German radar systems. With the city's air defenses effectively paralyzed, wave after wave of heavy bombers rained tens of thousands of tons of high explosives and incendiary devices onto the densely populated center of Hamburg. In a matter of days, the historic port city was violently transformed into a hellish, apocalyptic landscape of fire, ash, and absolute destruction. Operation Gomorrah was not just another raid. It was a grim, uncompromising demonstration of total war, where the lines between the battlefield and civilian life were completely erased. To understand the horrific magnitude of Operation Gomorrah, we must look closer at a terrifying tactical shift in strategic bombing, the deliberate creation of a man-made firestorm. Allied planners had meticulously studied the architectural layout of Hamburg. They knew that its narrow streets and timber-framed buildings made it highly susceptible to fire. The attack was executed in a precise, devastating two-step process. First, heavy bombers dropped massive blockbusters, high-explosive bombs designed to blast open roofs, shatter windows, and rupture water mains. Immediately behind them came waves of planes dropping hundreds of thousands of small phosphorus and magnesium incendiary canisters. These canisters fell directly into the exposed, broken buildings, igniting thousands of isolated fires simultaneously. As these thousands of individual blazes merged into one giant monolithic inferno, a terrifying meteorological phenomenon occurred. The heat rose to an incredible 1,000 degrees Celsius, causing the superheated air above the city to rapidly ascend into the atmosphere. This created a massive vacuum at ground level, which violently sucked in fresh oxygen from the surrounding areas. The result was a hurricane-force wind of pure fire, reaching speeds of over 150 miles per hour. This hellish vacuum tore trees up by their roots, fed upon entire city blocks, and literally turned the streets into furnaces. Oxygen was stripped entirely from underground air raid shelters, leading to unprecedented civilian casualties on a scale that had never been seen before in the history of human conflict.
Operation Gomorrah stood as the single most intense, concentrated bombing campaign of World War II up to that point. For over a week, the Allied air forces maintained an unrelenting rhythm of attrition. By night, the British RAF smashed the civilian and residential sectors. By day, the United States Army Air Forces flew precise, high-altitude missions targeting the industrial infrastructure. The strategic goal of this joint round-the-clock bombing strategy was twofold. First, to entirely dismantle Germany's industrial capacity to wage war, and second, to break the psychological morale of the German population, forcing a collapse of the Nazi regime from within. The physical reality of the destruction visited upon Hamburg was absolute. More than half of the city's residential buildings were completely erased from existence. Hamburg's vast U-boat pens, aircraft engine factories, and vital military shipyards were heavily damaged, delivering a massive blow to the Nazi war machine. But the human cost of this strategic victory was staggering. Over 40,000 civilians lost their lives in a single week, and nearly 1 million traumatized survivors were forced to flee into the countryside, carrying with them terrifying stories of the fire from the sky. Yet despite the unprecedented scale of terror and loss, the strategic assumption that civilian bombing would cause the population to revolt against Adolf Hitler proved false. Instead, the trauma hardened their survival instincts, locking the population deeper into the grip of a totalitarian police state.
The terrifying lessons learned in the skies over Hamburg became the direct blueprint for the air war that followed. The tactics perfected during Operation Gomorrah were later unleashed with even greater intensity on other major German cities, such as Kassel, Darmstadt, and most famously, Dresden. Furthermore, this doctrine of total urban destruction crossed oceans, heavily influencing the United States Army Air Force's strategy against Japan, culminating in the horrific firebombing of Tokyo, and ultimately paving the ethical and tactical pathway toward the use of atomic weapons. The ruins of Hamburg signaled the dawn of an era where whole populations became the primary target of industrial warfare.
Operation Gomorrah remains to this day one of the most harrowing, intensely debated demonstrations of the destructive potential of total war. It stands as a dark monument to human ingenuity turned toward absolute destruction, leaving behind deep scars that took generations to heal. As we look back at the ruin of Hamburg from the perspective of modern history, how do you assess the complex balance between strategic effectiveness and the profound moral implications of strategic bombing? Can the deliberate targeting of urban centers and civilian populations ever be truly justified as a necessary means to end a global conflict, or did it represent a catastrophic moral compromise by the Allied powers? We want to hear your analytical insights and unique perspectives, so please share your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you found this comprehensive historical breakdown valuable, please hit that like button, share this video with a fellow history enthusiast, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another deep dive into the epic, world-shaping moments of our shared past. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.